This is Britain's newest high-speed train. Welcome on board the brand new Avanti West Coast Evero. Today I'll be taking you on board the train's very first run in passenger service, showing you inside both first and standard classes, which I'm pleased to say are vastly different to the previous generations of Hitachi's British high-speed offers. This ride from Chester to London shows off its bi-mode technology, as well as some limitations the fleet has compared to the Voyagers they're replacing. Come with me as the journey continues. Now, my overnight stay was close by, but not next to Chester station, so a quick hop on board Merseyrail to reach the city centre and the main station where today's trip to London begins. Chester's railway station originally opened in 1848, though much of its present-day design, well, internally, can be attributed to the £10 million regeneration scheme that occurred in 2007. This included a new roof to replace the original one dating back to when the station first opened, but more importantly, improved accessibility by way of wheelchair ramps and lifts, though the station was undergoing further renovation works when I travelled. You'll also be surprised to see that a lot of the station shops here are rather local, though you do get the odd chain store such as WH Smith's here and there. Access to the platforms is restricted by automatic ticket gates. I have an e-ticket, so I can just pass through by scanning my barcode on the reader like so. Immediately greeting you is the plaque here, which states how far both London and Holyhead are from here. Chester is the starting point for services along the North Wales coastline, where most trains, including Avanti West Coast services, run to. Transport for Wales is the main operator of the station, linking Chester to North and South Wales, as well as to other key cities in England such as Manchester and Liverpool. Other operators here include Northern to other cities in the north of England, and Merseyrail serving the Liverpool and Merseyside region, which, as you know, is what I used to get here. Avanti West Coast, a joint venture of Britain's First Group and Italy's Trenitalia, is the sole provider of services between London, Chester and the North Wales coast, and has been using these Bombardier Class 221 Super Voyager high-speed tilting trains on this route since their introduction in the early to mid-2000s with Virgin trains, given the lack of electrification on the route beyond Crewe. When Avanti took over from Virgin in December 2019, one of their franchise commitments was to replace the Super Voyagers with brand new trains, being split into 13 Class 805 bi-mode trains and 10 Class 807 pure electric trains. I'll give you some more information shortly, but for now I decided to wait for the train's arrival in the waiting area on platform 4, given there's no first class lounge here. Everything was going so well until the train got cancelled. There was a track defect between Chester and Crewe, so the line was blocked. However, as the train was running from Crewe, I decided to catch an Uber, which was scheduled to get there with 10 minutes to spare so I could meet it. But it was a very close and tense moment. Fortunately, I made it to the centre of the railway universe with plenty of available time, and awaiting me on platform 12 was Avanti's brand new train, the Class 805, which Avanti has branded Evero. Along with the Class 807s, which will enter service later, these trains were manufactured by Hitachi in Newton Aycliffe from 2021 onwards, with today being the first day in revenue service for the Class 805s, the bi-mode variant of the fleet, capable of running on Britain's 25 kV overhead electric systems and on diesel for unelectrified routes, as seen on the first Class 805 pair to head up to Holyhead just adjacent to us. Like most of Britain's new intercity trains, these trains are based on the Class 800 and 801 trains used by Great Western Railway and LNER, procured as part of the Intercity Express programme to replace Britain's ageing HST fleet on key intercity routes. I personally think the Avanti livery on these trains is by far one of the best that IET fleet has carried so far. What do you think of it? Each 5-carriage Class 805 is capable of seating 276 passengers in standard class and 25 passengers in first class. As with the Voyagers, standard premium is not offered. I'll be in first class, which is Coach J at the front of the train.
At the front of the train we have Coach J, that's our first class accommodation.
First class on board is in a typical 2x1 configuration, and already I can see it looks a lot better than the previous generations of Hitachi Class 80X units. But sadly, seats 1 to 3 are ones you'd want to avoid if you prefer to enjoy the scenery.
If we do have anyone on board who does not intend travelling, please make your way in.
Despite only starting from Crewe, this station and Stafford were the only intermediate stops before London. After Stafford, the train runs non-stop to London Euston, where we're expected to arrive at 12:37 PM UK time, taking around 2 hours to cover the 169-mile distance. Not bad. Despite the earlier shake-up, to my surprise, we depart Crewe 1 minute early at 10:36 AM UK time. Crewe's ties to the railways are evident in its railway preservation, the most prominent example being Locomotive Services Limited's depot, where we can see examples of both HSTs and push-pull Mark III stock, which ran on the West Coast Main Line in its heyday, now on standby for use on luxury heritage tools. To the left is Crewe Train Maintenance Depot, with an Avanti Voyager awaiting its next duties, as well as local operator West Midlands Trains' brand new Class 730s, another significant West Coast Mainline operator to enhance its fleet with brand new trains. On that note, as we join the stretch of the West Coast Mainline to Stafford, let's check out the features of our brand new train. Whilst not as comfortable as the Pendolinos, I found the seat comfort to be pretty decent, and certainly a lot better than the earlier 80X variants. One complaint, however, is that despite the aisle side armrests being adjustable, the window side one isn't, despite containing the UK power and USB Type-A socket for the seat, which makes it slightly more difficult to access. On the Duo seats, there is one power outlet each on both sides. You can also use the wireless charging point on each table, though it doesn't seem they've done much to cater for phones with large cameras. I found the seat's legroom to be pretty decent, though not the best. Even the recline isn't that great and doesn't really aid the legroom, but some seats partially offset this by folding away the tables like this, which makes it easier to access and permits greater space. The standard retractable coat hooks seen on the other IETs can be found next to the window, with there being a decent overhead luggage space just above for smaller items, though for larger items it's best to use the larger luggage racks seen here, as well as the space in between the seats like this. The seat reservation system follows the new standards set by Hitachi's AT300. These light up red if the seat is reserved, green if the seat is available, and amber if it will be reserved later in the journey. On that note as well, I love how the seat numbers are also in braille, as on the Pendolinos, which aids with those with visual impairments. The passenger information screens show enhanced information too compared to the Pendolinos I found, such as a live route map and indicators showing how busy the train is, as well as the standard CCTV display amongst others. And finally, there's a drawdown blind to block out the harsh sunlight should you wish. I certainly made a lot of use out of it today. Overall, I do think this is a step forward in terms of the 80X first class design, but it's far from perfect. Nevertheless, I do prefer this on the whole compared to the Voyagers. Our first and only intermediate stop on this trip is the Staffordshire county town of Stafford, which acts as an interchange on the West Coast Main Line for Stoke-on-Trent, Birmingham and Wolverhampton southbound. Prior to December 2022, services to the North Wales coast and Chester called at Milton Keynes on lieu of Stafford, though this was since changed to provide more services for the town.
All customers, you've just got to there at Stafford, 10:57, Avanti West Coast service to London Euston. Information of the train today: first class accommodation at the very front of the train, coach J. Then the remainder of the train standard D, C, B and A.
Leaving Stafford sees us join the Trent Valley Line portion of the West Coast Main Line, which links the former with Rugby in Warwickshire. Here highlights a major limitation of the Evero compared to the Voyagers which they're replacing, the lack of tilt. Consequently, these trains are currently limited to 110 miles an hour in regular service on the West Coast Main Line, as only tilting trains such as the Voyagers and Pendolinos are permitted to reach these speeds. I believe because of the upgrade delays, Avanti are seeking a dispensation to allow the Evero fleet to reach 125 miles an hour in the interim. However, if you know more, please let me know in the comments. One of the stations we pass en route is Lichfield Trent Valley, which is around 116 miles away from London and 285 miles away from Glasgow, both southern and northern ends of the West Coast Main Line respectively, according to the 1987 built sign here. If you've watched my older videos of the new Avanti Pendolino interior, then this shouldn't be unfamiliar to you. The 4 standard class coaches on board the 805s have the exact same seating as the refurbished Pendolinos in a 2x2 layout with mainly tables and some airline seats. The comfort is the same and in my opinion is perfectly acceptable for the routes these units will be working, but here's where it differs from the Pendolinos. Each seat has a personal reading light just above the extendable tray tables, which I quite like, but the annoying thing is there is only one power outlet per duo seat, which is a massive inconvenience when the train is full, unlike today. I'm surprised this wasn't kept consistent with the Pendolinos, which have one power outlet per seat, so this was rather disappointing. I personally don't mind the small armrests, and I'm most pleased with the window alignment, which, in my opinion, is a lot better than it was on the Voyagers, despite being almost perfect.
To all passengers, the onboard shop's open. Happy family coach B, sales of teas and coffees, got cold drinks, hot cold sandwiches, and we do take cash and card payments.
That echoed announcement actually reminded me. On Avanti's weekend first class on this train, I was told I had to take my ticket to the onboard shop in coach B to get the catering included in my first class fare. The shop was a great feature on the Voyagers, and it's great to see this being retained on the Everos, despite being a bit smaller and claustrophobic. The full menu is here, but I've linked it in the description anyway for you to look at your own leisure. As for what's included, it's basically just a meal deal. A sandwich, a snack, and a drink. So this is rather limited, but to be honest, that's a major issue with all British trains these days. Wheelchair spaces on the trains can be found in the 2 driving vehicles. The standard class one also includes solo seats to allow for greater wheelchair access, which I thought was a good design. In first class, this is similar, albeit the larger seat and different coloured carpeting. Bicycle storage can be found towards the end of coach C next to the shop. However, these must be reserved in advance and can be done on the Avanti website at no extra cost. We can now be seen passing through Rugby at the end of the Trent Valley line, the town where the game itself was invented in 1823 by rugby schoolboy William Webb Ellis. The railways enhanced the town's importance in the 19th century when many of the lines still operable today opened, making Rugby a major railway junction and still acts as such today. Case in point now, where instead of taking the direct route down the Long Buckby Wharf, our train is scheduled to take the Northampton Loop as one of the first trains of the day and being the first public operating 805 to do so. This slower route is seldom used by Avanti, with the exception being diversions or limited services as part of route retention knowledge. To the left as we approach Northampton are several ex-Greater Anglia Class 321s, which are now working for start-up rail logistics company Veramis Rail, running between London, Birmingham and Glasgow every night as part of their express rail logistics services. We then pass Northampton itself mere moments later, one of the largest towns in England with a population of roughly 249,000 and a major hub for West Midlands Trains' London North Western Railway sub-brand for outer suburban services on the West Coast Main Line.
8 and 11. By double Voyager, do you mean double Evero, as we seem to have now announced the name of the train? It's on the website.
The Evero then exits the Northampton Loop to rejoin the main stretch of the West Coast Main Line to continue on to London. In doing so, it rejoins the fast line shortly afterwards as the train prepares to pass through Milton Keynes Central non-stop, a former stop of the North Wales Coastline services as I mentioned earlier. Milton Keynes is a fairly new city, and one of the last to be made such by Queen Elizabeth II in August 2022. We then pass the city's suburb of Bletchley minutes later, which enables us to view the fully constructed section which is part of the East West Rail project, a plan to reinstate the former Varsity line between Cambridge and Oxford. Much of the route runs along the Marston Vale line between Bletchley and Bedford, with the Milton Keynes, Bletchley and Oxford section expected to open in 2025. Unlike the Voyagers, which have accessible toilets only in each carriage, the new 805s have standard toilets in all 3 intermediate carriages, and as with the existing IETs, they're very spacious inside. There's even enough room for a baby changing facility in here. 2 accessible toilets can also be found in the 2 driving vehicles, accompanying the dedicated wheelchair areas for those with reduced mobility.
Please lock the door. The door is now locked.
Both types of toilet included great amenities, everything was in working order and impeccably clean. It's almost as if I was the first person to go inside them. We then pass Watford Junction, which Avanti serves on a limited basis through pickup only northbound and drop off only southbound. This also indicates we're closing in to the London suburbs, and less than 10 minutes later we pass Wembley Central and the world famous Wembley Stadium, which, along with the following announcement, indicates our journey today is coming to a close.
We will shortly be arriving at London Euston, where we finish our journey. Mind the gap and step when leaving the train. Please make sure you take all your personal belongings with you. Please mind the step down to the platform. Thank you for travelling with Avanti West Coast.
So there we have it. Overall, I enjoyed these trains a lot more than I thought I would. Hitachi definitely stepped up with the Everos and made them a drastic improvement from the previous generation of 80X trains. I was a little bit disappointed with the power socket situation compared to the Pendolinos and the lack of tilt, meaning they can't yet do 125 miles an hour, but nevertheless I'm confident these trains are a welcome change for passengers compared to the Voyagers. Oh, and as for the announcements, I'll let that slide as a small teething issue. My cost for today's journey in first class from Chester was £84, booked a few days in advance. However, Avanti will be reimbursing the taxi fare I paid to get to Crewe as compensation for it being cancelled. When I last rode the Avanti Voyager from Chester to London, I said the same thing I'm about to say now. This 2-hour journey was definitely not worth the money. However, it was nice to try a new interior style on the West Coast route, and I found it to be a pleasant journey too. And after a near flawless run, the inaugural 805 arrives into Euston, bang on time at 12:37.
Welcome to London Euston, where we finish our journey. Thank you for travelling with us.
Now you've heard from me, I want to hear from you. What did you think of the brand new Avanti West Coast Class 805 Evero trains? Have you had a chance to travel on them yet? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and share it, as well as subscribe and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. There's plenty more to come from me following the channel's rebrand, and this new trade was the perfect introduction into its new era. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.